The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, just 3 weeks before my final semester tuition was due. My father didn't ask how I was doing. He got straight to the point. "We're canceling your tuition payments. Your sister's wedding comes first." I stared at my phone, waiting for him to laugh. He didn't. My parents expected me to panic, beg, or quit college. Instead, I simply said, "Okay." Dad sounded confused. What none of them knew was that 6 months earlier, I'd quietly made a decision that changed my life, and by then, I was already earning more than he did. My name is Ava Mitchell. I'm 25 years old, and the day my parents cut off my college tuition was supposed to be the day my future fell apart. Instead, it became the day I finally stopped depending on their approval. It happened on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. I was studying in the university library when my phone buzzed.
Dad.
I smiled before answering. I thought he was calling to ask how finals were going. I couldn't have been more wrong. "Ava," he said without any greeting, "your mother and I made a decision." His voice was unusually formal. "We can't pay your final semester tuition." I blinked. "What happened?" "Your sister's wedding budget has grown. Venues cost more than expected, and we're helping with the down payment on their new house too. Family comes first." I almost laughed. Family. That word always seemed to mean my older sister, Madison. Growing up, Madison was the golden child. Every achievement of hers deserved a celebration. Every mistake deserved another chance. When she wanted a newer car, my parents found the money. When she changed careers twice in 4 years, they covered her bills. When she wanted the perfect wedding, they called it an investment in family happiness. Meanwhile, I learned to stretch every dollar, work part-time between classes, and never ask for anything extra. Dad cleared his throat. "I know this puts you in a difficult position." I waited. "I figured you might need to delay graduation until next year." His words were calm, almost casual, as if postponing years of hard work wasn't a life-changing decision. I looked around the library. Students quietly typed on laptops while rain tapped against the windows. Then I surprised even myself. "Okay," I said. Silence. "Okay," Dad repeated. "Yes." "You're not angry?"
No.
He sounded almost disappointed. "I thought you'd have more to say." "I don't." After we hung up, I closed my textbook and smiled. 6 months earlier, I'd made a decision that changed everything. After another internship rejection, I stopped waiting for opportunities to appear. Every evening after class, I taught myself software development, completed freelance projects online, and built a portfolio one client at a time. 3 months later, a growing technology company offered me a fully remote position. I accepted quietly. Within weeks, my income covered my tuition, rent, and every monthly expense. A promotion followed shortly after. I never told my parents. Not because I wanted revenge. Because every accomplishment I shared somehow became another comparison to Madison, or another reason they expected me to sacrifice more. This time, I chose silence. When Mom later called to remind me not to embarrass the family by skipping Madison's wedding, I simply smiled. "I'll be there," I told her. They thought I was arriving worried about losing my education. They had no idea I was walking into that wedding carrying a secret that would change the entire conversation. The wedding was held at a beautiful vineyard just outside the city. White flowers lined the entrance, a string quartet played softly, and every detail reflected the expensive celebration my parents had chosen over my education. When I walked inside, Mom spotted me first. A smile spread across her face. "You came." I said I would. She hugged me quickly before whispering, "Thank you for not making this difficult." I simply nodded. Dad shook my hand instead of hugging me. "You doing okay?" "I'm doing fine." He studied my face, almost expecting to see worry. He didn't. Throughout the ceremony, several relatives stopped to ask how school was going. "So," my aunt asked during the cocktail hour, "what are you going to do about tuition now?" I smiled politely. "I figured it out." She looked relieved. "Oh, that's wonderful." I left it there. No explanations. No dramatic speeches. During the reception, everyone gathered around the family tables while dinner was served. Dad stood to give a toast. He praised Madison's determination, thanked everyone for supporting the wedding, and talked about how parents sometimes had to make difficult financial choices for the family. As he spoke, I noticed several relatives glance toward me. They all knew, or at least they thought they did. After the applause faded, my cousin Ethan slid into the empty chair beside me. "So," he asked with a grin, "when do you finally graduate?" I set down my glass. "Actually, I graduated 3 weeks ago." His eyebrows shot upward. "You what?" "I finished early." The conversation at our table immediately stopped. "You already graduated?" my aunt asked. I nodded. "I paid my last semester myself." Dad slowly turned toward me. "What do you mean yourself?" "I've been working remotely for a technology company." Mom frowned. "Since when?" "About 6 months." The silence around the table became almost uncomfortable. Ethan laughed. "That's incredible. What do you do?" I briefly explained my role managing software projects and product development. One uncle leaned forward. "So, are you doing well?" I smiled. "I love the work." "No," he laughed. "I mean financially." I hesitated for only a second. "I'm comfortable." Ethan pulled out his phone. "Wait, isn't that company one of the fastest growing firms around here?" "It is. I heard their project managers make excellent salaries." "They do." Dad's expression slowly changed. "How well are we talking?" I answered honestly. "My annual income is a little over $200,000. No one spoke. Even the music from the dance floor suddenly felt distant. Then Ethan quietly looked from me to Dad before saying the words that changed the entire evening. "So, Ava already earns more than Uncle Robert, and probably more than the groom too." For the first time in my life, my parents weren't looking at me with disappointment. They were looking at me like they were meeting me for the very first time. Dad quietly cleared his throat. "Ava, can we talk alone?" Dad led me onto a quiet stone patio overlooking the vineyard. The music from the reception faded behind us. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, he looked at me. "Why didn't you tell us?" His voice wasn't angry anymore. It sounded confused. I folded my hands together. Would it have mattered? Of course it would have. I met his eyes. "Dad, the day you called to cancel my tuition, you had already decided my education was less important than Madison's wedding." He looked away. "That wasn't what we meant." "Maybe not, but that's exactly how it felt." The evening breeze carried the sound of laughter from inside the reception hall. "I spent years trying to earn your approval," I continued. "Every good grade, every internship, every scholarship. I kept hoping one day you'd be proud of me." "We were proud. You just never said it." He opened his mouth but couldn't answer. "So when I got my job, I stopped waiting." I smiled gently. I paid my own tuition. I graduated debt-free. I rented my own apartment. And I built a career without asking anyone for another dollar. Dad lowered his head. "I honestly thought you'd call us." "I know. I thought you'd need help." "I did need help," I replied quietly. "Just not financial help." He looked back at me. "I needed my parents to believe in me." Those words seemed to hit harder than anything else I'd said. After a long silence, he sighed. "I think somewhere along the way, your mother and I convinced ourselves that because you never complained, you didn't need us." "I needed you just as much as Madison did." I just stopped asking. His shoulders slumped. "I'm sorry, Ava." It wasn't dramatic. There were no excuses. Just a father finally admitting he had been wrong. A few relatives stepped onto the patio, but quietly turned back after seeing us talking. Dad noticed them and gave a small, embarrassed smile. "I guess everyone knows now." I wasn't trying to embarrass anyone. "I know. You never were." He nodded slowly. "I kept measuring success by who depended on me. But you succeeded because you learned not to." For the first time in years, I felt like he actually saw me. Not as Madison's younger sister. Not as the quiet daughter. Just me. When it was time to leave, I hugged my mother goodbye and congratulated Madison one last time. There were no arguments. No revenge. No victory speech. As I walked toward my car, Dad called my name. I turned around. "I'm proud of you," he said. I should have said it years ago. I smiled. Thank you. I meant it. Some wounds don't disappear overnight. Trust takes time to rebuild. But healing always begins with honesty. Driving home, I realized the biggest achievement wasn't earning more than my father. It was reaching a place where I no longer needed anyone else's permission to believe in myself. That freedom was worth far more than any tuition check could ever buy.